gun to your head, you had to create an RPG that used novelty dice or other esoteric mechanics, what would you make?
So, my loathing of novelty dice and needlessly esoteric mechanics is well known. So this is very much a loaded and targeted question. I hate novelty dice because so often, particularly Fantasy Flight games, they are necessary in order to play. Often they will include a table in the book where you can use normal dice and you can read off what the equivalent is, but that's really no substitute and it takes a long time. And I don't like them because they create a barrier to entry. They lock you in to that company, that manufacturer of those dice. They're usually marked up because in part they have to be specially made, but also in part because they want more profit. It's just an all-round shitty way to do things, and I don't think the mechanics tend to justify the existence of the novelty dice or the novelty mechanic or whatever in the first place. Most people can get hold of dice most easily, six-sided dice. Excuse me. Most people can get hold of a deck of cards, perhaps. Polyhedral dice are these days easy enough to find. Zocchi dice are a little bit harder to find, but you can get hold of those from multiple sources. So, those things, it's not too much of a problem. But novelty dice, novelty mechanics, using special individual cards, that sort of thing, that tends to be a barrier to entry and not worth the payoff. If I was forced to at gunpoint, I would say use an app, maybe, because then you can have a D anything that you want, really. You could have a D17, a D1063. I'm surprised we don't do more of that now that we have the capability to do it, where you can have random number generators between any two numbers. I don't know why we don't do that more. That could have some interesting design implications. I've been revisiting my Eastern-Western game idea that I had around the same time that Skarka originally started on his Far West game that still hasn't seen the light of day. So yeah, I've been looking back at that thinking, I've waited long enough. I might as well get on and do it. And looking at that, I've been considering esoteric mechanics, relatively speaking. You could play it using poker, but I didn't think that was quite in theme enough. So I've been looking at mahjong and these Japanese cards. God, I can't remember what they're called now. It was a mini game in the Sakura Wars game for them. But they have pictures of flowers and so on, and they're divided into suits by month and season and flower and so on, and you can build up hands of those as kind of tricks that score in the original game. So that could be an interesting way to do a mechanic that thematically fits, but I'm worried that it would be a major problem when it comes to keeping the game accessible. So I'm umming and ahhing about that, but that's where I might make an exception, perhaps, where it's thematically appropriate and mechanically sound, and creating tricks or hands or something as a resolution mechanic, for me at least, ticks those boxes.